Early results are in from Canada's national election, and it's shaping up to be a nail-biter. The Liberal Party's Mark Carney and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre are locked in a close race to form the next government. The Liberals are currently leading with 23 seats, while the Conservatives trail with 12. A party needs 172 for a majority in the House of Commons. Polls have now closed nationwide, and early numbers show the two main parties gaining ground. The smaller parties like the New Democrats and Bloc Québécois see their vote share collapse. This pivotal election comes just after 6 weeks after Mark Carney replaced Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister. Carney is watching results tonight from Ottawa with his wife, Diana Fox Carney. Handling US President Donald Trump has become a major campaign issue. Trump added fuel to the debate earlier, repeating his controversial call for Canada to become the 51st state. With more than 50% of the vote, the Liberals are riding high, while the Conservatives, sitting at nearly 39%, are also showing strength. We are now joined by guests to discuss this pivotal election now. Amanda Galbraith. We're now joined by Daniel Wagner, CEO of Country Risk Solution, located in Portland, Oregon, to discuss this further. We are getting some breaking news in from about 10 minutes ago. Mark Carney's Liberal Party is expected to win enough seats to form a government. It is unclear whether he will win a majority. Daniel, can I have your immediate reaction to this? If Carney wins, could this be one of the best political comebacks we've seen in recent times?
Certainly, Thomas, I would agree with that. You know, I was on NewsX about 12 hours ago, and I suggested at the time that the Liberals will probably win with a more sizable margin than the tight polls suggest. And this appears to be another example of the polls being wrong. The information that I have is that there's a 9-point spread at the moment of 49 to 38, and pretty likely that that's going to hold. It may even widen. If you consider that the Conservatives had a 25-point lead before this whole 51st state thing came about, and they blew it, basically. And the Liberals put together a very strong candidate in Mark Carney, and they didn't just jettison Trudeau. What they did was they put in a very credible replacement, a former central banker and a widely respected person on the international scene. That appears to have worked in combination with the idea that the Conservatives might be less oppositional to Donald Trump and the Liberals would be more oppositional, and that seems to be the front and center issue. As is often the case in elections like this, you have two distinct camps. In this case, there was the whole anti-Trump 51st state camp, and then there was the camp that's very concerned about rising prices and crime and things of that nature. So it appears that the Trump issue has taken the front stage.
Yes, and we've seen Donald Trump weigh in on the election, once again offering annexation to the United States. How important, obviously we can't speculate who's going to win here, but as the CBC polls suggest, it is suggesting that Carney is in the lead in this thing. How important was Carney's stance on Trump? How do you think he appeared to be towards Donald Trump? I know, looking in from the outside, he certainly looked like someone to tackle Donald Trump and the best person for that job.
Yeah, that's exactly my impression as well. The idea being, we are not going to become the 51st state. We are not interested in whatever it is you're selling, they were telling Mr. Trump. And if you think about the degree of nationalism that took place in the last couple of months in Canada, we in the US are certainly aware of it. There were anti-American chants, and there was a sort of a circling of the wagons approach with the Canadians saying, "Buy Canadian." And if you take that into account, how fresh that is in everyone's mind and how important it is to the average Canadian to remain independent and to basically thumb their nose down south, this makes perfect sense to me. And combine that with the fact that they had an excellent candidate in Carney, and you have this result.
Yes, we're getting some breaking news in. Mark Carney is projected to win his riding. Mark Carney, whose party is projected to form a government, is now projected to win his riding. Carney, who has never been elected to Parliament, run in Napier near Ottawa. So that is Carney's constituency that he is projected to win. Now we're just getting that in. Daniel, how pivotal in general is this of an election for Canada? I mean, obviously we have mentioned Donald Trump, but Canada is also facing tariffs from Donald Trump. Is one of the only nations, along with China, to have responded to Donald Trump's tariffs with reciprocal measures. We know that it's facing economic issues as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And of course, the economics are going to remain pivotal in this, not only in this election, but going forward. Now the hard part comes, right? So Carney has pulled off this wonderful win, and many people didn't see it coming. And now that he's done that, the hard part is, how do you maneuver this difficult economic situation and make the Canadian economy stronger while addressing all the issues that the voters in Canada who voted Conservative are concerned about? Now, that's not going to be an easy thing to do. You know, when an economy is in a strong position, those types of things are difficult. But when it's in the position that it's facing now, with all these tariffs and reduced exports and imports, it's going to be really challenging. No more challenging than it would be, for example, in many other countries that are facing similar or higher tariffs. The difference is that Carney is a political novice, but I don't think that that matters as much. I think he's a real smart operator, and he's well known internationally. People like and trust him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he turns out to be a really good prime minister.
Yeah, what have you made of his campaigning, Daniel? Obviously, we've seen difficulty in him speaking French in some debates, but overall, his public speaking has been quite impressive. And as a political newcomer, fighting an election campaign, just months into your first political career, it's not too bad, is it?
No, I think he had a little wind at his back, frankly. I think Mr. Trump gave him the wind at his back. And I think he was a sort of a smart political operator. He has good intuition. He has good instincts. I don't think it hurt that he dealt with the Vancouver driver crisis very well. And I think people generally like him. If I was in the Conservative Party right now, I'd be scratching my head and saying, how did we blow this lead? And how is it that this whole thing turned around on us in a matter of 6 weeks?
Yes, 25 points they were down before Justin Trudeau resigned and Mark Carney won the leadership. I just wanted to go reel back for a second and obviously talk about that tragedy that happened just a couple of days ago in Vancouver. You mentioned the approach that all the leaders gave. It's obviously something that the country is still reeling from. What did you make of both Poilievre's and Carney's response to that tragedy?
Well, I think there's only one way for politicians like them to respond, and they both responded in a fairly similar manner. I mean, sort of preaching unity and sorrow and grief and support for the people who were impacted. I think any politician anywhere in the world is going to say something similar. But it also happens to be the right thing to say. I think the fact that that happened a couple of days before the election certainly didn't hurt Carney's chances as acting prime minister.
Yes, and in this election we've also seen the decline of the two smaller parties, which is Bloc Québécois, the French-speaking party based in Quebec, and the New Democrats Party, led by Jagmeet Singh. In the political landscape, what does this mean? Is it that the people want to throw themselves behind one strong leader? How would you analyse the decline of the smaller parties in the Canadian government, possibly?
So historically, those parties have taken a chunk out of the Liberal vote and have benefited the Conservatives. So this time around, I think what voters were saying was, actually, we want either one of these two guys from the Liberal or Conservative Party, or we're voting against the other person. And that's something that many of us in America are familiar with, and people in other places, where we're not voting for anyone, we're simply voting against someone. So in this case, it would appear that voting against the Conservative candidate was the way some people were playing this out.
Yes, and obviously Donald Trump, let's move back to the tariffs. What's Pierre Poilievre's stance on the economy? Obviously, I think that Pierre Poilievre is actually leading with the opinion polls when it comes to the economy, but Carney's stance on Trump is just so much stronger than Poilievre's. That seems to have made the real difference.
I think the real concern among a lot of Canadian voters had to be, what do we expect from Carney versus what do we expect from Poilievre on the Trump issue? And I think in Carney's case, far more Canadians were inclined to vote for him on that basis. And I think there's a lot of people who simply don't want any chance that they're going to be siding with or somehow in favor of whatever Trump is selling on any given day in Canada. And that being the case, it worked against him.
Yes, I want to talk about the key states. Obviously, we've seen the North, which is usually the French-speaking area, move now towards the Liberals. What are your thoughts on where the vote is flipping around in certain key states?
Yeah, I'm not so familiar with the nuances and the minutiae of various key states. I would simply suggest that maybe they liked how he spoke French. maybe you know, some of the traditional stances that people in Quebec have do not apply. Certainly doesn't hurt that you know, Carney has spent some time there, is very familiar with Quebec, and people felt comfortable with him.
Daniel Wagner, thank you very much for joining us. We now move on. Well, that's all we have time for, unfortunately. We will bring you more news updates as this election continues. Thank you very much for joining us.